Cara Marie has to deal with verbal abuse as well as massive peer pressure. How does God deal with that? Stay tuned on this episode of They Overcame by.
When storms come and I don't know what to do.
How great is our God? How great is my God? How great is your God? Let me tell you, in a world that breeds hate and do your own thing, God is using his people to stand up for Jesus and say, yeah, I have issues. Yeah, I have problems. But let me tell you what happens when my problems meet Jesus. This episode, it's awesome. Why? Because we have a young lady by the name of Cara Marie. You may have heard of her. She actually does the intro and the extra song called It's Over Now for They Overcame by Ministries. Her testimony you don't want to miss. Why? Because it deals with verbal abuse. It deals with peer pressure. Now, folks, I want to tell you right now, we are going to be in Florida in the month of August, shooting live. You don't want to miss that. I do want to let you know that They Overcame by. We also have a new ministry that's called the Women at the Well. That is going to be directed by Deborah Smith. Trust me, you don't want to miss that ministry. Very relevant, extremely down to earth, with issues that women deal with in and outside of the church. You don't want to miss that, and that will be coming up shortly. All right, folks, I'm going to get out of the way, and I'm going to let Cara Marie tell you her experience with Jesus Christ in her testimony. So listen to the testimony of Cara Marie.
Hello, my name is Cara Marie, and today I'm testifying on They Overcame by. I don't know, it's weird talking about myself, but I guess, that's the whole purpose of a testimony. It's supposed to be about who you are, and I've always been, well, not always, but I've been the type of person who kind of just stays to myself and keeps everything inside, and I don't really talk about how I feel or what I think, just because, everybody's been through life, everybody's been hurt, everybody's had bad experiences, and I just never wanted people to see that side of me. But I guess that's, before I even have started talking about it, that's the beginning of, my testimony. That's something I overcame, my fear and my reservations and my desire just to keep everything inside. Like, God is just so amazing and so great that I can't keep it inside anymore. It just spills out, and it's just, it's not even about me. It's just, this is who I am, and this is who he made me to be. And in order to fulfill my purpose, I have to let it out. So, I've had an interesting life. I grew up in the church. My parents are very supportive, very loving people. My mom stayed home with me. I didn't go to daycare. I didn't start regular school until second grade, so I was at home with my mom. It was a very wholesome, good environment for a kid to kind of grow up in. My dad loves me very much. He was in our home. Both of my parents are Seventh-day Adventists. Both of them believed in, teaching me about Jesus from an early age. I loved learning. I was, from what I hear, a very, energetic, outspoken, just full of life. I was the kind of kid who was just full of life, excited about everything. But then I started school, and I, started, I guess, growing up and experiencing life. And I guess from the outside looking in, a lot of people thought that I had, the perfect life. Everything. I was good at everything that I did. I was intelligent. I was talented. I was gifted. And I don't think anyone ever assume that I was insecure. I don't think anyone ever assumed that I, wasn't confident in who I was. I don't think anyone ever assumed that I didn't know what I was here for, or I didn't know who I wanted to be or where I was going. Because of that, people treated me the way that they thought I needed to be treated based on who they thought that I was, as opposed to actually taking the time to get to know me and finding out, what I needed, where I was going, how I felt about different things. And I think that that's a large part of why I struggle or have struggled to talk about myself in an open and honest fashion, because when I have, people just haven't seemed to get it. I haven't had, an easy life. It's just been hard. I was never the popular kid. No matter what environment I went in, I always, struggled. I was very awkward. I did gymnastics when I was younger, so it stunted my growth. I hit my awkward stage right when I was starting high school. I was really small. I got picked on all the time. I got bullied all through high school. The movies that you see about Girl World and Mean Girls, or the stories you hear about kids who just get bullied to the point where they commit suicide and stuff like that. That was where I was. There was a point in time when no one would talk to me. No one was my friend. I ate lunch in the library by myself every day. And I was in a Christian school, but I don't think very many people really knew what was going on. Not very many people, adults included, took the time to find out. And when people did, I guess, try to help, it kind of only made things worse. And I think the culmination of what I think hurt the most out of that situation was at the end of that school year. It was my sophomore year in high school. At the end of the school year, in the school newspaper's gossip column, one of the teachers had approved someone saying who would have thought that the 10th grade girls would have a civil war or something like that. And it's it basically made a big joke out of the entire thing. And then later on, through high school, that same teacher actually, I was talking about how I would have wanted to go to boarding school if I had the choice. And she said, "Oh, it's a good thing you didn't." And I was just like, "Why?" And she was like, "Oh, because when you first got here, you were haughty. And your classmates helped, I guess, I'm paraphrasing, but helped kind of put you in your place." And so I'm so basically I deserved. What was being communicated was basically you deserved everything that happened to you. And that hurt. I don't think anyone deserves to be mistreated. I don't think anyone deserves to be ridiculed or not accepted. And it was hard. And I learned a lot of who I became later on in my life. It was developed during that time. I was an extrovert for my entire life up until my sophomore year of high school, and that's when I became an introvert. And I learned to just be by myself and not depend on anyone for anything. I learned to keep my emotions and my feelings in check. I learned to keep my business to myself and to not let people know the truth about what was going on. I learned how to have a very good poker face. And even when everything wasn't okay, to act like everything was okay. To never let them see you sweat, never let them see you cry. And just, be that person. And even when it came to, I'm naturally an emotional person. I learned even to be selectively emotional. I could be emotional, but only when it was necessary or it benefited the situation to be emotional. Everything that I did became calculated. Nothing was free. Nothing was, just from the heart or open. It was all okay, what's going on? Who are these people? How are they acting? What do I need to do to fit in? Who I need to be? And so that's like when I began to lose myself. Then I went to Oakwood for undergrad. And my freshman year was awesome. Like, I had so much fun because there was no pressure. No one really knew who I was. No one knew any of the stuff that I did. So I didn't have to, like, be this person who did stuff. I could just be. And that was another part of, I guess, what I had developed into. Because it was hard for me to make friends in high school. I just said, well, you don't have to like me. You don't have to be my friend. I'll just be better than you. And so I worked really hard to be the best at everything. I was valedictorian. I was first soprano in the choir. I played basketball, did gymnastics. Just wanted to be that person, like, who did everything and who was the best at everything. And that's what my self-esteem was wrapped up in. But then I got to Oakwood, and like I said, freshman year, no one really knew what I did or knew me. So I didn't have all that pressure. But then sophomore year, I decided, you know what? It's time for me to, come to the forefront, show what I can do, and be that person again. Like, I'm ready for it. So I did Aeolians, basketball. I had a job. I had an overloaded schedule both semesters of my sophomore year. And I got into all of that hoping that people would see, oh, like, wow, she's the only person on campus doing all these different things. Wow, she's impressive. She's amazing. And it completely blew up in my face. Nothing went the way that it was supposed to go. And I actually ended up that year being very, very depressed. Like, that was the first time I think that I realized that I was, like, in a very depressed state. I didn't want to talk to anyone, never went and got counseling. But I had no motivation for anything. I got the first and only C that I've ever gotten in my life at any time or period during that school year. And it was because, like, I just didn't care anymore. Like, I was trying. Nothing was going the way that I wanted to go. And people weren't seeing me the way I wanted to be seen. And I just wasn't feeling good about me because the vision that I had of myself had kind of been shattered. Like, okay, if I can't be the best at everything, who am I? And I didn't know. I didn't have an answer. And so, like, February of my sophomore year, Aeolians were singing in Nashville. And the sermon, it was about, like, the Willie Lynch theory or something like that. Just about, like, how black people had been conditioned to be a certain way. And I can't really say what it was about that sermon that struck me, but God just, like, started talking, and I was just like, whoa, like, my mind was blown. I was, like, bawling in tears. And at that point, I was like, God, I just surrender. Whatever you do to me from this point forward can't be worse than what I've done to myself. And so I'll just, I'll take it, whatever. And things actually did get worse after that. Like, things kind of started to fall apart more. And I remember, like, a few weeks after that, I was in my dorm room at, like, 3 o'clock in the morning, just, like, crying my eyes out. And I called my cousin, and she came in, and she, held me while I cried. And once I finally got myself together, she was like, so what is God trying to show you in all of this? I was like, I don't know. I guess that he loves me. I don't know. And she was like, well, go with that. And, just see what happens. And so, from that point on, like, I started reading 1 Corinthians 13, and God just started revealing so much to me about his love and who he is, how he operates. And I made the decision that summer to get baptized or rebaptized and rededicate my life to God. And I was in a good place. Like, I wasn't depressed anymore, or I was coming out of being depressed, and everything was just going the way that I wanted it to, or not even so much the way I wanted it to, but just I could see God working in my life again. But then I got into a relationship, and it's hard to talk about it it's hard to talk about the past in general just because you don't want to sound like a bitter, angry, hurt person. But there's a difference between, I think, talking about something from a hurt place and talking about something from an honest place. And I have never publicly spoken about that relationship and what it did to me. And I'm not going to bash the guy who I was in a relationship with because he's a great person. He's a really great person. And I think that we were just two people in different places trying to make a relationship work. But that relationship was toxic for both of us for different reasons. And I lost myself as a result of trying to be accommodating, trying to, be what everybody said I should be in that relationship to make him happy, to make, the people that were surrounding us happy. And I lost myself. And I slipped back into deep depression. I wasn't ever what I could call happy. And there were times when I was content. There were good times, like good moments. But I was never what I could say is, or what I can say now is the emotion of happy. And I wasn't myself. And I think that a lot of people looked at me and looked at that situation and came away with conclusions about who I was without knowing at all what went on or what I had to deal with. But I will say that what God taught me was the true meaning of unconditional love. Love doesn't fail. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love thinks not after itself. And even though I was in the process of losing myself, I lost myself in some good ways. I learned to communicate better about my feelings and to communicate them in a way that didn't have to be negative towards the other person. I learned to put my heart and soul into something and to not give up on it. I learned just that I can't have a higher expectation of the people around me than they can have of me. And if God has forgiven me so much, if God loves me no matter how many mistakes I make, no matter how many times I do the wrong thing or make promises I can't keep, if he can do that for me, who am I not to be patient and loving to someone else? Who am I not to forgive? Who am I not to, look past how I'm feeling and past my thoughts and my pain or whatever it is to doing what's best for the other person? And so I'm thankful for what I was able to learn. And that relationship ended, I think it was like October of 2012, and it ended like 5 days before my grandfather died. And so I was just like emotionally out of it. I completely shut down, got depressed all over again. And this time, though, it was different because I was able to still function, but I wasn't emotionally present at all. I didn't allow myself to feel. I was incapable of feeling in a lot of ways. And I went through this, find the right guy phase. Like, I can't really feel. I can't be present emotionally. I'm not giving myself time to heal, but I'm going to have a guy there. And that's going to be a distraction. That's going to make me happy. I'll be okay. And I talked to a bunch of different people, got into one short, long-distance relationship, and none of it worked. And right before the long-term relationship ended in October, God told me, like, I have to be enough for you. And I wasn't certain about whether or not I should even let it go because I wasn't sure if I could live without it. And he was like, I have to be enough. Well, can I be enough for you? And once I realized that God can be enough for me no matter where I am, no matter what I'm doing, no matter what the situation is, I was like, okay, it's going to hurt, like really, really, really bad, but I'm not going to die. I'll be able to come back. I'll be okay. And I said that, but I still was trying to fill that void with, work or school or guys, just all these different things. And again, God was like, I have to be enough for you. And so during the course of all that, one thing that he did that was amazing, I got out of undergrad in 2012, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what my life was supposed to be like. I didn't really care what my life was supposed to be like. And I had wanted to be a lawyer since I was like 7. But I was like, no, once I got to undergrad and actually saw what it took to do it, I was like, no, that's too much. I don't want to do it. Forget it. And November of 2012, I went to an open house at a law school in Michigan. And I got there, and my desire for law school was reawakened. I was like, no, I can do this, and this would actually be fun, and all this stuff. And I decided in November that I was going to retake the LSAT, because I took it October of 2011, didn't study. And I was like, okay, I'm either going to do really good or I'm going to fail miserably. And that's how I'll know what God wants me to do. And I didn't do so bad that I couldn't get into law school, but I didn't do well enough to have a lot of options. So I was like, well, I don't know what this is supposed to mean. And so I just kind of shelved it, didn't think about it. But I was like, no, I'm actually going to take the time to study and, see what happens. So November of 2012, I started studying. I got a book, and I studied from November to January, off and on. And then I took the test at the beginning of February. I took the LSAT at the beginning of February. I got my results back in May. And what I was hoping for was a 163 on the LSAT so that I could get 85% of my tuition paid at the school that I had visited in November. And I got a 156. And so I was like, that's not bad for only studying for 3 months, but it's not what I wanted to have school paid for. So, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And God was just like, I got this. So I went online and looked at some other schools in Michigan, and there was one school whose application deadline was too soon for me to be able to apply. But there was another school, Wayne State, whose deadline wasn't until April 15th or something like that. So I had enough time to get my letters of recommendation in, my transcripts, personal statement done, all that stuff, sent all of it in. I was accepted in a week. And with the way that their scholarships work is you don't really apply for anything. You just fill out your FAFSA, and then they let you know what you're eligible for. So I filled out my FAFSA, and the first thing that came in the mail was a merit scholarship. So I was all, happy and thankful, and I'm like, that's awesome. It was $10,000 for the year, so I'm like, that's amazing. God, what am I going to do for the rest? And my loan information had come in, and I knew that I could get the loans and have enough money to, more or less cover my tuition and stuff like that. And I was working, and I was going to be working part-time, so I knew that, I could do that. But something told me, don't accept those loans just yet. So I was like, okay. Then out of the blue, I get another letter, and I found out that I was eligible for the Damon J. Key Scholarship, which is a scholarship set up by an alumnus of Wayne, and it's for African American and Hispanic students who either went to HBCUs or who went to Detroit Public Schools. And I went to an HBCU, so I was able to get that, and that was worth $25,000. So not only was my first year paid for, but I had money left over for books. I was able to get a new laptop to cover other financial needs and stuff like that. So that was a definitive, you need to be in law school for me. God literally blew the doors wide open and said go. So I was like, all right, whatever we can do. I only applied to one school, and I was over it. I was like, all right, cool. So I started school. Everything was going good with that. And then I had this relationship that was long distance. Again, great person, but long distance is really hard, and especially when you have two people who are really busy. It just wasn't working. And God was like, you just need to chill. Can I be enough for you? That mantra came back, am I enough for you? Can I be enough for you? Can I meet you in that place? So I was like, all right, fine. I'm done. I'm done with relationships. I'm not even going to talk to anyone. I'm chilling. Jesus, what's up? And when I tell you, God is incredible, better than the best fix that you can find in this world, no matter what it is. For me, it was men, but it could be drugs. It could be alcohol. It could be partying. It could be, your work. It could be church. It could be school. It doesn't have to be, the things that we look at and say, oh, those are sinful. Those are bad things. It could be something that in doses is a really good thing, but you're using it to fill a void in your life. And so it becomes an addiction. It becomes bad because you're using it in a way that you shouldn't use it. Whatever it is, if you let God into that place, I'm telling you, it's amazing. Like, it's like this, it's a high that you can't explain. Like, I can't even begin to describe it. And so God was just working with me, talking to me, just teaching me things about myself. And like in January, my cousin Esty, the same one who was in my dorm room with me years ago, listening to me cry and telling me that I should explore God's love. She was in India, and we were Skyping, and we just both started talking about, how we were feeling and how we were feeling like overwhelmed with life. And she was like, I quit. Like, I quit. I just quit. I can't do this. I can't do life. I can't do any of this stuff. I can't. God says he's bigger and he's greater and he's all this stuff. Do it, because I can't. And I was like, I feel the exact same way. She was like, so quit. Just quit. And I was like, okay. So we quit. And when I tell you God was like, thank you, now have several seats, it was just like, oh, so you got it like that. And like, he just started moving in like just crazy ways, like from the inside out. Like, it wasn't just like external things. I can feel the change inside of me. Like, I'm happy. Like, being happy, like just carefree, no worries, no stress. I haven't been this way since I was a little kid. And I can feel the difference. And it's not just me feeling the difference. It's people saying, you look different, you sound different. Like, being around you, like, we feel, like, when people tell you, like, why are you so happy? You never have a depressed day, not knowing that I struggled with years for depression, like, crazy. It's like, all right, Jesus. No, that's Jesus. That is so not me. That's the Spirit of God in me, because let me tell you about where I come from and what I've been going through recently. Being at peace about what I'm here for, like having a reason to wake up every day. God providing, opportunities, not just with law, like an internship, an amazing internship over the summer with this corporate firm, with really great people. The opportunity to do music, to share music. I love music. Being a singer is something that I've wanted to do since I was a little kid, but I never had the confidence. I was never, sure that that's something I could do. Plus, it's not rational. It's not, a concrete career plan. It's kind of like a pipe dream. So I was just like, no, that's not going to happen. But something else that God has taught me is that it's not what you do. It's who you are that makes the difference. Anybody can do any number of things. There are a ton of people out there who are talented, but it's who you are and what you're using the talent for that makes all the difference in the world. Before, I wanted to sing because I wanted people to know who I was. I wanted people to, look at me and say she was amazing, because I wasn't confident in myself that I was amazing. But now I know that I'm a child of God, and I'm amazing because God says I am. No matter what I'm doing or where I am, I could be in a hut in Africa somewhere, and God would still think that I'm an awesome person. So it's not even about that anymore. It's about having a story to tell and having a venue or a medium through which I can share that with people and uplift them and help them know that God is there. And so often we look at success as, okay, what am I doing? How can I go around and say, what can I tell people about myself? What do I have to show for all the work that I've done? When in reality, success is just as simple as how much are you touching the people around you. And so if I can get up and sing and people aren't even listening to me, they're singing themselves, like they're in worship with God. It's not about them listening to me. It's about being able to say, hey, like, I was able to help somebody enter into an experience with God. Like, you know how crazy, who am I? Who am I? Like, I'm nobody. And that's an amazing thing to see, just like, see the Spirit move, see it just going through a room and seeing people being at peace and at rest in that Spirit. It's amazing. And even being able to touch people outside of the church, being able to be a Christian in a way where people can say, hey, like, I don't even know if God exists, but I know that this person says that she's a Christian and she loves me for who I am. No matter what I've done, no matter where I've been, she loves me and she cares about me and she wants the best for me. Like, that's beyond amazing, because people may never, know Jesus and stuff like that, but if they can have an experience with you and walk away from it feeling loved, feeling accepted, feeling understood, feeling like they matter and they're special, they've experienced His Spirit without even knowing it. And you've been a vessel in that. Like, it's literally just like this ebb and flow. Like, you're literally just like the conductor, and the currents are just going through you, and people are being blessed left and right just because you're saying, God, I'm here, and I'm open to whatever it is that you want for me. And so that's I guess the crux of my testimony. That's the crux of where God has brought me from and where He's taking me, is just being able to be in a place where I don't care what happens to me anymore. Like, I don't care if I have to ultimately give my life, because what I've been given so far surpasses anything that I ever could have done for myself. And so, I mean, even the little bit of happiness and joy and peace, the little bit of heaven that I've been able to experience on earth is worth it. Like, God cares about the tiniest little minute details of my everyday life, like what clothes I wear, what my hair looks like, what my makeup looks like. Like, we talk about everything. He's my best friend, and He's here all the time. He's here now, no matter where I am, no matter what I'm doing. And He fills me. Like, there's nothing in life that can be for me what He is and what He's growing into being in my life. And He's limitless. And because He's limitless and I allow Him to be in my life without limits, my life is limitless. There's no boundary to who I can be and where I can go and what I can do. And it's all for Him. Like, I'm here, but I'm not here. Like, I'm not that person, that Cara doesn't exist anymore. But I'm more myself than I ever have been, because He's just doing it. Like, I read in a devotional thought one time, some years ago, the author said, God can only be as big in your life as you allow Him to be. And so that's my challenge to you. How big do you want God to be in your life? Because if you believe in an infinite and limitless God, that means that you have to let Him be in your life without limits. And if you want to put parameters on what He can do or what you're willing to do, how far you're willing to go, God is going to respect that decision, and He's going to stay within the box that you put Him in. And your life is always going to be limited to the confines of the box that you've restricted yourself to. But if you say, hey, God, take away the box, blow my mind, just be big, do what you have to do to prepare me for it, because you're not prepared. You are not prepared for it. Like, your mind can't comprehend. Your body is not strong enough. Your heart is not, full of love enough to be able to deal. So you need Him to come through and, do some fixing and revamping in order to be able to handle it. But if you allow Him to do that, what He can do and what He will do, I can guarantee you will blow your mind. Blow your mind. And I love being able to put or be in a position where not only is my life limitless, but people can see this and hear this now, and then look at where I am a year from now, and say like, oh man, like she wasn't lying. Like God really was doing like crazy stuff. And look at where she is now. Look at what she's doing now. And it's all him. Like I'm saying now, wherever I go, wherever I end up, whatever God ends up doing with my life, it's all him. I'm saying that today, April 2014. Check me in April 2015 and see what else God has done. Like I'm telling you, limitless. Like there are no limits. So I hope you've been blessed. And like I said, the challenge is to just see how big God can be in your life and watch what happens.
Didn't I tell you that God is phenomenal? There's a saying that says, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. That is a lie from the pits of hell. Kara was going through a situation to where, because of the teasing, the name calling, she had low self-esteem, and she went into a physical coma, if you will, a emotional coma, to where she began to shut people out. She began to mask her feelings. She began to mold herself into something that was very cold and calloused. You know, I remember myself growing up in England for well over maybe 10 years, and I remember being teased because of my lips. My lips were too big and my nose was too big, and I remember being teased to such an extent that I hated myself. When I would talk, because I didn't love me, when I began to talk, I would push in my lips, and that was something that really affected me. But I thank God that in the midst of people not speaking life, but speaking death. Yeah, the Bible talks about there's power in the tongue, and you can choose to speak life, or you can choose to speak death. I thank God that no matter what was said over Kara's life or my own, that we serve a God that, guess what? We are made in his image. That, guess what? He loves us so much that he sent his son to die for us. Jesus knows exactly how much hair is on your body. So how much does God love you? I stand before you today, and I agree with Kara, and we say, listen, it doesn't matter what people say about you. Know that God loves you. Know that God thinks and knows that you are the apple of his eye. And whatever you're going through right now, God will turn that around, as he did for me, as he did to Kara. And he will bring glory from your situation. All right, folks, I hope you have enjoyed this episode of They Overcame By. Please subscribe, please share, and above all, let people know that They Overcame By is your global testimony central. What are you going to do with God's love? Are you going to hide it? Are you going to keep it? Or are you going to share it? This is Jason Moore signing off, and we'll see you next week with another awesome episode on They Overcame By.
To be alive.